Welcome to the Stirring the Gumbo Pot podcast, the podcast about the history, the culture, and the accomplishments of Black people. This podcast aims to inspire, educate, empower, and celebrate the lives of Black folk. I am your host, the Cajun Peach, and thank you for tuning in. Now let's get this pot stirring. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the final episode of Season 1 of the Stirring the Gumbo Pot podcast. Today's episode is solely dedicated to the Angola 3, and it ends my Angola series. And the series came about unbeknownst to me. It's just something that happened as I journeyed my way through my podcast. I've dedicated 2 previous episodes to Angola. The first one being Angola, where I spoke about, or mentioned rather, these 3 gentlemen who are known as the Angola 3. And I found out about them as I was doing research, where in that Angola episode, I mentioned something about prison statistics. I was doing some research on prison statistics and came across the term Angola 3. And it was in that episode that I had promised you all that I would come back and dedicate an entire episode to that story. And that's where we are today. And in between that time, I was invited to Media Day for a stage play that was showing at the Carver Theater called The Angola 3. And that's where things kind of turned in this direction. So, as I was doing the interview with the cast and crew, I met some people who just kind of turned this thing into a whole research project. And so that's where I am. And this episode is dedicated to those 3 gentlemen, Herman Wallace, Albert Woodfox, and Robert Hillary King. Those 3 gentlemen make up the Angola 3. These 3 men were prisoners in Angola prison between 1971 and 2016. Collectively, they served a total of 114 years in solitary confinement. In 1972, Woodfox and Wallace started the Angola chapter of the Black Panther Party. The Angola chapter of the Black Panther Party was ultimately the reason the Angola 3 ended up being segregated from the rest of the prison population and hence being targets of an investigation for the murder of 23-year-old prison guard Brent Miller. They would ultimately be indicted and convicted for his murder, a murder that neither one of them committed. By establishing the Angola chapter of the Black Panther Party, every chance they got, Wallace and Woodfox rallied up the other inmates in an effort to make them realize that they were being mistreated and even as prisoners deserved to be treated as human beings and not animals. They organized the education of other prisoners, created petitions and hunger strikes to protest against segregation within the prison and to end widespread rape and violence. As a result, they were targeted by the prison administration, who feared that Wallace and Woodfox's political views and activism would cause other prisoners to follow suit, and therefore they would lose control of the prisoners. So Wallace and Woodfox had to be segregated and therefore moved to solitary confinement, where they ended up serving decades. Robert King was not assigned to Angola until after Brent Miller's murder. He said he was accused of acting as a prison lawyer for other inmates. Therefore, upon his arrival at Angola, he was immediately thrown into solitary confinement, where he joined Herman Wallace and Albert Woodfox. Mr. Herman Wallace. Born in 1941, Herman Wallace grew up in the Lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans. In 1971, he was convicted of armed robbery and sentenced to 25 years in prison. He was placed in solitary confinement in 1972 after he and Albert Woodfox were accused of killing 23-year-old prison guard Brent Miller. Their murder trial was riddled with legal flaws and inconsistencies, but nonetheless, in 1974, he was convicted and spent the next 41 years in solitary confinement for the crime. In July 2013, Amnesty International called for Mr. Wallace's release on humanitarian grounds, saying that he is 71 years old and has advanced liver cancer. After decades of cruel conditions and a conviction that continues to be challenged by the courts, Mr. Wallace should be released immediately to his family so that he can be cared for humanely during his last months. On October 1st, 2013, Mr. Wallace was granted immediate release by the United States District Chief Judge Brian A. Jackson of Baton Rouge, ending his 41-year incarceration in solitary confinement. The court had overturned Wallace's conviction in the murder of Miller based on the unconstitutional exclusion of women from his jury, which is a violation of the 14th Amendment, and therefore Judge Jackson ordered a new trial. Even though Mr. Wallace was dying of liver cancer, the state of Louisiana chose to prosecute him again for the murder of Brent Miller. The state appealed the judge's order, seeking to keep Wallace in prison. When East Baton Rouge District Attorney Hillar appealed Judge Jackson's order, the judge responded with a threat of charging him with contempt of court. On October 3, 2013, a West Feliciana Parish grand jury indicted Mr. Wallace again for the murder of Brent Miller. Mr. Wallace died on October 4, 2013, 3 days after being released from prison. The following is an interview that I conducted with a New Orleans music artist named Damion Neville. I met Damion when I went to the historic Carver Theater in New Orleans to interview the cast and crew of the Angola 3 stage play. Damion was a part of the cast where he performed a song that he had previously written and released about his own experience in jail called I Want to Be Free. In that song, he paid homage to Mr. Wallace. So in honor of Mr. Herman Wallace, here's that interview. In the play, so for my audience, Mr. Damion Neville is my guest on this episode, my first guest today on this episode. And I met him just about over a month ago on the set of the Angola 3 stage play where he performed as himself, and he has a rap song that's a part of the script. And so I would like to introduce to you all Mr. Damion Neville, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself and how he became a part of the cast and the song that he performed during that play.
All right. Wonderful. How y'all doing, everybody? I am Damion Neville, and first, I wanted to tell you, don't be so hard on yourself, because through trial and error, we learned everything, and you did what you had to do, and that happened for a reason. So here we are now. You know what I mean? I appreciate you for taking the time to bring me back and do this. So once again, I'm Damion Neville, and my musical background goes back as far as I can remember. I mean, I can say when I was 2 years old, my mom bought me, she used to walk me to A&P, which is uptown around Xavier University. She would sing jazz to me. So I was introduced to jazz through my mother at the age of 2 or 3. And then from there, it just flourished into a bunch of other genres. So from there, my family are the Nevilles. I'm related. And, we have a huge musical family. So I'm one of, I don't know how many. And this is what I do. I rap, sing, produce, act, screenwrite, playwright, all of it, a little bit of everything. A master of what they say, a master of all, a jack of all trades, a master of none.
An all-around entertainer. An all-around entertainer. All around. Yes, because I mean, as an artist, we do a lot, not just one thing.
Right. So, there you have that. And so the next thing I think was, how did I become affiliated with the play?
Yes. The Angola 3 stage play. Okay,
so this kind of, we got to go back in time. So when we go back to like 1997. I was incarcerated, and this guy, I met this dude, a lot of stuff happened. And the reason I even wound up on the same tier with him is because I had a fight on another tier, and things was going this way and that way, and looking at the TV, the trials, and just a bunch of stuff going on. So I got moved from the D side to the C side, and after a little stint in the hole, came up. They put me on this tier C3, I think it was, and beating on the pole, singing a song. You know, it's actually a song that one of my family members wrote and performed. I really don't know if they wrote it though, but I know they performed it. They did it. They did the song. I think it was Big Jolly. But anyway, so I happened upon this guy and beating on the pole. He's staring at me, and I asked him. I was being a little young hothead, and I was like, fuck you looking at? Excuse my words, but I was like, what are you looking at? And he was like, if I told you, you wouldn't believe me. And I said, man, listen, you're gonna have to try me. So, long story short with this was that me being a younger guy, thinking that I could, how you are when you're young, nothing, you have no fear.
Right.
You feel like you could take on the world.
Exactly.
So I had no clue who this dude was. I had no clue. I'm sitting there talking to, one of the founders and members of the Black Panthers in this area. You know what I mean? So I didn't have a clue. Dude who had done all this time in prison. You know what I'm saying? And once I realized after he told me who he was, I still didn't know until he told me his story. And then I started paying attention to the news and this and that and the case that he was back on. And I was like, oh shit, this guy, you know what I mean? And from there we became friends, man. And he just told me a lot of things and I wanted to impress him. So he told me a lot of stuff. Now keep in mind, I had never been to Angola at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had just my experiences myself from being in prison. So from a couple of the stories that he told me, along with some situations that I've seen being in OPP and the other facility, which was across the way, which was Templeman 3. So I was in the hospital unit over there. So, along with all of the stories and the things I've seen in that short period of time, with what he was telling me, I wrote a song and I was like, man, I got to do something to make up for this and kind of try to impress this dude. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because he was such a powerful figure and such a somebody with a lot of knowledge and information that I wanted to absorb.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote the song and we were in the cell. He wound up being in the same cell with me. You know what I'm saying? So if it was a problem, it was going to be a problem all the way around the board. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But so I wrapped him this. Well, actually, I gave him the paper and let him read it, and then I performed it for him and for the rest of the cell. The whole block, because when you singing or rapping in the on the open flat, in the cells like that, you can hear, everybody can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I just made it out of a little concert and I rapped it for him, and he cried. He was like, man, this is touching. This is like, this and that. So he signed the top of it and highlighted it.
Mm.
And I was just like, that was monumental for me, because here go this dude, this Black Panther dude, just made such an impact on the world.
Mm-hmm.
And here I was kind of oblivious to it because I was so caught up in my world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But once I realized who he was, that meant the world to me, that this dude signed my paper and just was kind of, taken to me, because he told me he knew my grandfather, which was the real thing. And I was like, damn, my grandfather. He said my grandfather was right there in that same, compound, or that same day room, beating on the same pole, singing the song I was singing.
Mm.
So that just blew my mind, and made me realize, look, dude, you're being an asshole, calm your ass down and be respectful to your elders.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't like the dude saying, hey, look at, was getting flirtatious with me or nothing, or going
right.
upside my head.
Right. You just had an attitude. You just had an attitude.
Right. Yeah, young and foolish.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, check now, trust me, from that situation that taught me to move slow and just think quick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now, who was it? I don't think we mentioned.
It was Herman Wallace, actually. Herman Wallace. Yeah.
Mr. Herman Wallace.
Mr. Herman Wallace, right. Yeah. And he was in the same cell. So we spent the rest of that time that we were around each other, just conversating, and he would tell me some things and brief me on the history of him and their their flight, the Angola 3. You know what I mean?
Okay. Now, Mr. Wallace, of course, is no longer with us. He passed
Yeah,
away in
he passed away.
2013 after
Right.
41 years of being in solitary confinement in Angola penitentiary. And so now you said I'm going back. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
So I was like, hell yeah, I would actually, just a friend of mine who died and what those guys stood for and endured. So yes, I would love to be a part of that.
yes.
And that's where we at,
Yeah. And so I enjoyed your performance. And it's
Oh,
like
thank you so much.
you just the song just fit in so well with the storyline. And
Right.
it's just so profound. I wish everybody could have seen that play. I
Hmm.
enjoyed the heck out of it. I really, really loved the story, and I had no idea. Like I said, when I put out my what I call now the original Angola episode, who these three
Hmm.
men were, but I was determined to research them and come back and tell people their story because a lot of people still to this day, residents of the state of Louisiana, in the city of New Orleans, still have no idea who these three
Yeah,
men are, right?
you're definitely right. Yeah, you're definitely right.
And as a part of my podcast, my goal is to share our stories,
Hmm.
our Louisiana stories to people. And so that's why I wanted to spend more time on the Angola 3. Now, if you don't mind, if you could
Hmm.
just, because because of copyright infringement, all of that, even though it is your song, if you don't mind,
Hmm.
just rapping a couple of the bars in the song,
Right.
if you feel compelled to.
Yeah, yeah, I have no problem with that. So, okay, so what we'll do is, of course, the chorus, I want to be free. So what I'll do is I started off from, uh, how about the second verse where it's, okay. So I'll say, you ever seen a grown man in a cell crying, trying to make it home because his damn mama died, looking at the wall turn into a picture screen, seeing everything you've done since you was a teen? You ever been in solitary on a compound, 1 hour to shower and walk around, then it's back on a lockdown? Keep imagining how the sun looks, nothing to do but work out and read books, researching cases so I can be free. I got some people out there fighting for me. 40 years I was lucky to see. They locked me up and threw away the key. I guess I'm right where they want me to be. Now, when I say 40 years, that's referred to Herman, of course, because
Mm-hmm.
I obviously didn't do 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
But so you get it. It's like I'm speaking of myself and these guys at the same time, because if you notice throughout the play, I don't know if you paid attention, but this happened, this shocked me as well, because throughout the play, most of the stuff I said in the song
Mm-hmm.
happened to some of the guys.
Oh wow.
So, like one guy said his mama, he lost
Right.
his mama and he couldn't go to the funeral. And,
The
so in the
album
song I said,
Woodfox.
your mama passed on your third dose. And, so, and then another part where, guy said something and it's a verse in the song. And
Mm-hmm.
this wasn't, they never heard the song. So this is just like, when you're writing something, you're writing it about your experience mixed with a couple of other people.
Right.
And I mean, that's only the safe way to do it unless you write an autobiography
Right.
about
Right.
yourself.
So
You know what I mean?
you speaking for the men and women in prison who
Hmm.
just they've been given so much time. Like
Right.
most of their lives. It's unbelievable to me
Yeah.
that these men now understand, because I didn't understand it in my last episode. I really didn't. I just kind of brushed over it and dismissed like the abuse of it and the whole penal system in Louisiana. I really had no
Hmm.
idea. All I knew is it existed, Angola existed, and I figured, I've heard stories about how hard and harsh it was, but I had no idea how racist that
Oh,
institution
that era,
is,
yeah.
right?
Oh my
So,
goodness, yeah.
yeah,
And
so,
once again, I just got to say this: I have never done time in Angola, just because a lot of people think by watching the play, they because one thing that was kind of not outlined, adequately. Because I'm not putting that on nobody because it was a beautiful play.
mhm,
It's just that when I popped up, it seems as though I was in Angola too.
mhm,
You know what I'm saying?
mhm, mhm.
But that wasn't the case. He was
Right,
back on a charge back in OPP. You know what I
right.
mean? So I never done time in Angola. I only been to Angola through some uh, uh, when the other prisons bring you to the rodeo. And let me tell you something. Get to know him all over again. And for him to tell me, man, the reason I'm back is because of this. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then for him to die in the prison.
Mm. And it just, when I learned about how Mr. Wallace died, I was very disappointed. I was very disappointed because Amnesty International worked very hard to have him, um, released
Released.
and
Yeah.
and they finally did, but not without a fight. They even though a judge ordered them to release him, they still, I think the warden went to dinner and said, "Yeah, I'll get around. Basically, I'll get around to it when I get around to it. He doesn't deserve to be let out, even though this man is sick and dying." He
Right.
still went about his life like he of course didn't care about Mr. Wallace, but Mr. Wallace ended up passing away from liver cancer. Um, like you said, 3 days after he was released, but they were issued another. They indicted him again, and
Indicted. Right. I was just
he
about to
was
say that they
re-indicted
indicted him again.
and was getting
Hmm.
ready to be arrested, but he died. He succumbed to his
Yeah.
disease, and in a way, I'm glad he did. He was
I
at the
think he
end of
checked
his
out.
life.
I think he was like, you know what? You gonna do what?
Right,
I'm gonna show you.
right,
And he
right,
said, nope,
right.
I'm gonna take it
I'm
on
gonna
me.
die a free
You know what
man,
I'm saying?
and I'll be damned.
Yeah.
And I'll be damned. I'm gonna
Right.
do it my way, and I'll be damned if you
Right.
get me back up in there. Because if I go back in, I'm gonna die anyway. I'd rather just die
Right.
out here in the free world. So, rest in peace to Mr. Herman Wallace. This
Rest in peace, my
episode
brother.
is dedicated to Mr. Herman Wallace because he's not here to speak from himself, and I think you did a great job, a fantastic job of speaking on his behalf today in your music. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so
I
much.
thank you for joining me today on the Mr.
Hmm.
Herman, because this is going to be the Mr. Herman Wallace segment. So
Beautiful.
yeah, so thank you so much, Damion, and we're gonna talk. We're gonna work together again. And Damien's gonna be my host
Oh,
on my next
definitely.
episode. Damien's gonna join me as a co-host on my next
Hmm.
episode, which is a tribute to hip hop, 50 years of hip hop.
Yes, ma'am.
So he'll be joining me as
Oh,
my first co-host, and so I appreciate you for doing
looking
that
forward
too.
to it.
Yes. So thank you for
Yes, ma'am.
joining
No
me
problem.
today. All right,
No doubt. No doubt.
Albert Woodfox. Albert Woodfox holds the record as the person who has served the longest in U.S. history in solitary confinement, 44 years and 10 months. Amnesty International called for the release of Woodfox after Wallace's release. He had been held in solitary confinement since 1972. After more court challenges, Woodfox was finally released from prison on February 19, 2016. After his release, he dedicated his life to fighting for the rights of prisoners and advocating against the use of solitary confinement. He has spoken out against the inhumane conditions in prisons and the need for systemic change within the criminal justice system. He traveled and spoke at various events, universities, and conferences to share his experience and raise awareness about the issues he faced during his lengthy incarceration, particularly the prolonged use of solitary confinement. In 2019, Woodfox published a memoir titled Solitary: Unbroken by 4 Decades in Solitary Confinement, My Story of Transformation and Hope. The book provides a first-hand account of his time in prison, his fight for justice, and his transformation during and after solitary confinement. He involved himself in efforts to bring about legal reforms, particularly those related to the use of solitary confinement. His experiences contributed to discussions about the need to address the mental health and human rights implications of extended solitary confinement. Albert Woodfox's story and activism contributed to the broader dialogue of prison reform and the treatment of prisoners in the United States. His journey highlights the challenges faced by those who have endured long periods of isolation and the importance of reforming the criminal justice system to ensure fair and humane treatment of incarcerated individuals. I met Mr. Woodfox's brother, Michael Mantle, at the Angola 3 stage play and invited him to join me on the podcast in honor of his brother. Here is how our interview went. Welcome, Mr. Mabel. Thank you for joining me today.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions about your brother who passed away last year from COVID. Right? Is that correct?
Yeah, it was COVID. Was a major part of it, but he died from, he had a seizure in his brain and all that, but it was due to the COVID.
Okay. Now, I recently just learned of the Angola 3 and the 3 individuals who were the Angola 3, and I had the opportunity to meet you at the play that I attended. It was such an amazing play. I really enjoyed it. And so I just thought it was just so ironic that I was there that night, the same night that you were there. So that means that you were meant to be on this show today. Now, how proud are you of Albert?
Oh, I am so proud. I mean, I can go as far as saying not only that he was my brother, but he was my rock, and as well as he played the absence of my dad, because was brought up with a one-parent mother that couldn't read or write. And so he would be the one to fall in the spot of being our dad, to make sure while my mom worked at night, he would make sure that we had something to eat, go to bed, make sure that in the mornings we was up and ready to go to school. But the most phenomenal thing I enjoyed about him was, his fight and his plight. I seen so much in him that I seen in my mother. Maybe more now as me being an adult than a kid, because I seen her fight. But once Albert had gotten the time, he was first originally charged with an armed robbery charge, and he escaped from Paris prison, and he went to New York, and in New York is where they found out he got busted for what they call a numbers game, and the man didn't want to pay him anything, and they called the police, and he didn't know, so they put him in what they call the tombs in New York, and that's where he first, as me and him talking periodically, is where he first learned about the Black Panther Party, and he was astounded by what he seen, how the brothers and sisters out there fighting for our kids, because back that time it was in segregation time. So of course that Black men and women had long the story of not being able to go forward or anything. So once he learned all of the prayers of they extradited him back to the Paris prison, where is he, him, King, as well as Malik, Raheem, and all of them was on the same tier, and they organized in there. So it was time for him to leave. So he, he hated to Angola with 50 years. He went with 40 years, and they gave him for simple escaping from the Paris prison. And, they seen all of the ruckus and things that was going on in the prison system, how, young men was coming in prison, getting raped, gang bang rape, sold, and, for a profitable margin, not just for inmates, well as guards and everybody else what was knowing what was going on. So he wanted to fight and started organized. So they wrote up and sent it to, who they needed to send it to, and they got it back, as you can notice in the play, that go for it to start the Angola chapter in Angola, and that's how the Angola 3 had become in the prison system. So during that time, a guard got stabbed like 38 times, which his name was Brent Miller. And so they seen the organizing that Albert, Hooks, and King was doing. So they, of course, put the murder charge on him and Hooks. And it was two other guys, but one was exonerated and one, made a plea bargain, which was Noxeema Black and I forget the other guy's name. So Albert and Hooks was the one to get the life sentence.
Wow.
And of course, when King came from the parish during the time of the killing, King wasn't even there because of his Pantherism. They say, we got to keep all these Panthers away from because then we won't have control of our prison because they was making a big influence.
Right. Now, let me ask you, because I wasn't really sure how to funnel my questions or ask the questions. I didn't want to ask you questions like you're Albert. So I want to know from you, what was it like going to visit your brother every month for 40 years? What was that like? What was that emotional journey like for you?
Oh, it was tiresome. At that time when I started going and seeing Albert, I was a teenager. And so, of course, I had to go with my mother and my stepfather and all those things. And, even at a young age, I was about maybe 14, 15 years old, that I had made a vow that no matter what concealed confinement that you have, we still have hope. And I'm going to be here for you, until, I go or you go. And I meant that. I meant that in my heart because of the things that I seen him done for me. In return, I felt that I needed to do the same for him. I had other brothers and things. They didn't go. But my mother and my sister, before she passed of breast cancer, she would go more than I would go. As being a young teen, I was out there running wild, doing drugs, all that's natural things, people from private, they do. I mean, that's all we knew. And so I got caught up in a lot of those things. And once I had reached the time my mother passed and my sister hadn't passed, then I knew that it was time for me, even though I was gone, it was time for me to step in those foots, and those shoes. And, I was running. I would go every month. I mean, I would work my job and get off at 6 o'clock in the morning, go straight on the highway after working 12 hours. Many mornings I fell asleep, run off the road, but I was determined because, like he said, if a man can carry the weight of the world on his shoulder, then, he should be able to overcome any obstacles that's set before him. So I wasn't going to let anything stop me from keeping his hope. You got to realize, being in a 6x9, well, you can only imagine because, you haven't done it. But, being in a 6x9 cell, 23 hours a day, the brutality that they went in, you heard about the red box and, and not break. I've seen many men in CCR or heard, not seen, but heard how a lot of men have, lost their mind, lost their dignity. Lost their self-respect, and, some may even had in the past probably committed suicide or tried to commit suicide. So for me to watch the strength and endurance that they had played a big part in my life, so my respect for him is beyond respect. I worship this guy. This guy, gave me a chance at life, and no matter what the cause may be, you're gonna have to fight because the obstacle is gonna never leave, but you got to know how to remove them.
Yeah. Now I've seen you alongside sitting with Albert on many interviews I found during my research on YouTube. And so do you now speak or show up to requests for you to come and show up and speak on behalf of your brother? Where are you now in that?
Yes, I do. I've went and done couple of radio things in Baton Rouge, and I done some things. And actually, I'm going on December the 2nd to receive an award from him for with the UCLA, ULC, uh, in December. I'm gonna be there to receive his award and give a little speech or whatever. But yeah, I'm a lifelonger with this.
Okay.
I just want to continue his legacy. I want to continue his fight. I want people to understand that you know one of the things is because he's gone, his legacy must live on. And when I mean by his legacy, anybody that know Albert Hooks or King or ever met them, he played an influence in a lot of young men. Like you got a lot of young men coming to the prison system that they're bad on the street, but when they get there, it's a different thing. So he wanted them to understand that you got to live outside of this prison. Don't let this prison break you. Don't let this prison turn you into something that you're not. And so yes, I do a lot of speaking engagement. Whenever anybody call me, I'm willing and ready to go.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I want his continuance to go forward.
Right. Just like you did for me, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
And that's one of the questions I was going to ask you about what Albert would say to the young men who are going down the wrong path in life. What do you think he would say to them, these young men that's shooting down each other in the city of New Orleans, or across the country for that matter?
Well, I think he would try to change their mind of thinking. Because, just like a kid, if a kid never had anything and you put him on the streets and he's seeing these people doing these things and what they got, the mom and the parent only can give him the love and show him the self-respect. But, he would let them know that that's the wrong way to go. I've been there, done that. There's a brighter future for you, and try to lead them in other direction. Try to, let them know that prison is not your destiny. Your destiny is to become successful and be something. Something that was taken from so many men that's in prison. Because, of course, now in Angola, since they're desegregated back in 72, 71, that, a lot of them get institutionalized. So he wants to deal with their mind, their body, their soul, and try to change that, way of their thinking. Because, a lot of them, back then, you can see what path they're taking. Yeah. So he can take a lot of those things and try to, lead them in other direction, which is so many other great men, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I saw him on an interview. Was that a book somewhere up in DC or Maryland area? And he was talking about his book, Solitary, which I purchased and recently got, and I'm going to read it. I can't wait to read it. But he was talking about, he was so engaging. And I wish I could have met him. I swear I do, because I just connected with him. Like right when I could hear his voice now. I know his voice anywhere because I've heard him speak. But do you want to talk about the book? For how do you feel about the book, that whole project of the book, Solitary? I don't know like what how it's selling or whatever, but I'm really looking forward to reading it. And how much did he put like work or effort rather to tell his story?
He put his life ahead of him to tell his story. That story means so much. I mean, it was so much that they had to bear that he didn't give that a chance to do. I mean, with the death of my sister, the death of my daughter, the death of my brothers, uncles, he missed. And so yeah, that his story is beyond remarkable things that he had to go through and endure to get where he at. But he's a fighter, and his book is his life, it's his legacy.
And what was his life like when he was released? He lived about 6 years after his release.
Okay. The day that we walked out of San Francisco jailhouse when he was freed, I had a little Mustang, and we got in the Mustang, and his knees buckled when he seen sunlight, and that's because you confined in that cell so long. To he just probably never in his mind, I can only imagine, that it actually happened. And I had the opportunity to walk him out, and he stood in New Orleans, seeing a couple of friends and things, and then he moved here to Houston with me. I wanted to get him back into the world of which he didn't know. He always knew of the outside, but not being present by reading, Time Picayune, Jets, and different things like that, and things like that. So he's still with me almost a year, and he decided during that time, I guess he felt that he was ready after he had tore up my cars and his car.
Trying to drive.
He just, trying to drive. And I'm like, Albert, you haven't been in a car in 47 years. And Albert was incarcerated in Angola, in San Francisco, total of 44 years and 10 months. He actually the longest prison ever was held in solitary confinement in the world at that era. I mean, Zulu is there now, and Zulu's been up there for about 47 years.
Wow.
And King's done 29 years, and he was freed on a charge that he didn't commit, and that was part of the plea. So but those breaks don't come. You have to think about how many other of our men, black men, young brothers that's in prison for nothing.
Right.
So his whole life was not about him; it was about others.
Right.
Giving them a fair chance. So that's and even coming out, he would travel all over the world in a lot of universities and things just to speak. So he played not an influence in my life, but on a whole lot of people.
Right.
And I wish you would have had the opportunity to meet him, because everybody met him and fell in love with him too, because of what he was, stirred on what he wanted in life and what he wanted to do to get back.
Right. Such an amazing man. He really was. And in my mind, he still is, because I feel like his legacy will live on, of course, past him, because of what he stood for.
That's right.
How's the family? Because I know he spoke about his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren.
I talked to his grandkids. He got grandkids and great-grandkids. But periodically, I talk to him, and we talk and everything of that nature. So, but I'm more sure they're doing okay. I hadn't had a chance to get in contact with them, because my little niece, she lost her phone. Well, not little niece, she's real old, but they're doing okay. Not a day go by, I don't not see him or visualize he's here with me, but I know he's gone. So my duties now is like my duties when, the way he was living in the hospital. He didn't want to live, and I knew I had to do what me and him had talked about.
Where is he buried?
He's not buried. He was cremated, and we concealed his ashes in Lake Pontchartrain as a kid, where we used to go and swim. And that's where I had his dismissal of his remains at.
Okay. Lake Pontchartrain.
Lake Pontchartrain, the boat dock.
Okay. Mr. Albert Woodfox's legacy continues. He's someone that I will admire. I'm so glad I learned about his story. And this is going to be a compelling, I think, episode for me, because once I find out something I'm drawn to, I felt like I had to tell this story, because it was bigger than anything I've come across since I've been doing podcasting. And so I was just drawn to tell Mr. Woodfox's and the other two gentlemen's story. And so that's what I'm going to do. And I really appreciate you coming on my show and sharing your side of being his brother, and how that was for you and along with him on his journey. So I really appreciate you joining me. I'm going to read his poem rather on the end. He wrote a poem for your mom called Echoes, and I am going to read that poem at the end of this episode. So thank you
That's
for
great.
yeah.
I just want to let everyone know to get the book. It's an amazing book, and it will help you to understand what a black man and a black woman go through in life. And no matter what you have to go through, don't give up. And yes, the book was good. He was #1 seller, and he was the #1 book 2 years ago and won the Pfizer Award for one of the best novels that they have ever read out there.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I got the book on Amazon. So whoever wants to purchase the book, you can get it on Amazon. I got it in hard copy to have it on paperback as well as hardback. So,
Yes.
is anything else you want to say about your brother while I have you?
Only thing I want to say is that he may be gone, but he's living through me. So this doesn't stop, and we won't stop until we change justice, righteousness, and inhumane things that we have to go through. Not just out in prison, but also what we're dealing with out here with the police shooting you, and because you're a black man or whatever, that we still have to stand up.
Yeah, we have a long way to go.
And fight.
Right. Right. And I know he was supported Black Lives Matter. I heard him say that in his interview. He was a strong supporter of Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
So, thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank you. Okay.
Robert Hillary King. Mr. King is the last surviving member of the Angola Three. In 2001, after spending 29 years in solitary confinement, his conviction was overturned and he was released from prison. He became the first member of the Angola Three to be released. Mr. King has since been an advocate for criminal justice reform and for the rights of incarcerated individuals. After his release, he traveled the world and delivered speeches in front of thousands about his experiences, shedding light on the harsh conditions of solitary confinement and the need for change in the prison system. These days, Mr. King lives a quiet and humble life as he continues to be an advocate for prisoner rights and prison reform. I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. King at Media Day for the Angola 3 stage play, where he agreed to be a guest on my show. So here's my interview with Mr. Robert King. My guest today, everyone, is Mr. Robert Hillary King, the last surviving member of the Angola 3. Welcome to the Stirring the Gumbo Pot podcast, Mr. King. I'm so honored to have you.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
So if you can, just give my audience just a little bit of background of how you became a member of the Angola 3.
Well, yes, actually, you kind of covered most of that ground, but how I became a member of the Angola 3, oh, wow, without elaboration, too much elaboration, it was after, as you alluded to, after uh, being convicted for a crime in which I hadn't committed. I was offered a certain amount of time, and then I went to uh, I ended up going to Angola, but prior to going to Angola, I had begun to rethink, the situation of Black people. I began to see myself in a much greater light, and as a result of that, I think I became very rebellious. I escaped out the New Orleans Palace prison, and it was at that time. I just fast forward. It was after I escaped, and then after being recaptured, after being out for a minute or two, they placed me on the 5th floor in the parish of New Orleans, and I was in the cell, and there was a television that was mostly for the guard, actually, because there were only 5 cells up there, and the 5th floor at that particular time was a place where, and where it used to be the death row. They had the electric chair there, and they executed people. They brought a chair from New Orleans to Angola afterwards, but initially they had executed people from New Orleans Parish Prison in the fifth floor, and that's where we were. And so there was a television at that time. They allowed fast forward to the 70s, 71, 72. They had television on, even though we weren't allowed out our cells in the morning about 15, 20 minutes to take a shower and then back into the cells. But I was on the fifth floor because, as the story goes, I had escaped. I had begun to see myself, as someone captured, someone targeted, and someone being black, was having had experience or prior experience with the criminal justice system or the injustice system, as I refer to it. At that time, I knew how the system was, and so at this particular time, once I was rearrested again, and fast forward to the future, I was rearrested, and I decided to take matters into my own hand. They offered me a 15-year sentence. And I decided I didn't want to take that sentence because I had a prior record, and they didn't have any evidence or any that I had committed a crime, nor that I was really, involved in it. But the fact is, because I had a record, they decided to, to charge me with this particular crime. And I went to court, and in a 10-2 verdict, I was found guilty, and I became really angry with the system itself, and I began to look at it in a different light. And it was then that I decided to make plans to escape, and that I succeeded in doing that. And I escaped, and that's the reason why I was on the fifth floor. And it was at that time that I heard that was this television, and there was an interruption in the regular programming, and it came on that there was a group militant called shooting it out, in the Callio Project. That was the first shootout. Shooting it out with the New Orleans Police Department, and calling themselves the NCCF, which meant the National Committee to Combat Fascism, but it was just it was just a term that was used to hide really members of the Black Panthers, who they were. Instead of being called members of the Black Panther Party, it was NCCF, which was a branch of it, and which all were members of the Black Panther Party. But it was this group that the announcer alluded to in the place, and that they were shooting it out with the police. But I found out that they really wasn't shooting it out with the police. I think the police was shooting it there on them. And I kind of wanted to be in that house because, I began to feel the oppression that was being rained on those folks. And I thought about myself, and I equated it with myself, and that propelled me to want to escape. And that's what I did. I escaped, and it was from that time that I think I began to look at America in a different light.
Yeah.
In a true light. I began to see that was something that was significantly, drastically, and morally wrong with the system. And that there were certain people, and people who looked like me were the one who were victimized most than anyone. And so I think it was, with this mindset and with being arrested on a charge that I hadn't committed, and being offered a certain amount of time, I think all of this kind of, gave me what I needed to adopt what I was hearing, and I want to associate myself with members of the Black Panther Party. And when I found out who the Black Panther, I had heard about the Black Panther Party, Huey Newton, and Bobby Sears and the rest of them, but I had no real idea about it, about who they actually were. And it wasn't until it was a shootout, the first shootout, that I did hear who they were, because they were enunciation and saying things that I couldn't articulate, but I was feeling these things. When they say we want feeling, we want freedom. We want power to determine our destiny. We want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace, and on and on and on. Immediate end to police brutality in the community, employment, full employment. I mean, the list went on, and I was attracted by this, and I think it validated the fact that I wanted to escape and continue to try to escape, uh, from physical custody. But after having escaped and after being recaptured and being on the fifth floor, they eventually transported me to Angola, and it was in Angola where I had met other members of the Black Panther Party. I had met Herman Albert, knowing them before, but I had met them, and they were having had escaped out the New Orleans Parish prison. They saw me as being, militant and blah blah whatever it was. However, they classified me as being dangerous. And at that same time, that in which they sent me to Angola, a couple of weeks, prior to my going, a guard had been found slain in a dormitory. And Herman and Albert and other members of the Black Panther Party, Gilbert Montague and a few more, one more, it was Angola initial, Angola 4. They were charged with the murder, but only Herman and Albert were convicted of the murder, and another individual, for some reason, plead guilty for 21 years of manslaughter, but which is another story. He eventually died, or they killed him in prison, but he never got out of prison. But Herman and Albert was charged with that particular charge. And they associated me, once I had escaped out the New Orleans Parish prison, they associated me with being a militant and being a member. And I gladly wore that. I didn't mind that, because I definitely was in the mood of trying to escape as much as I could. And I think the only place that they could have sent me that I wouldn't have tried to escape was the fifth floor. And even once I got to Angola, and I guess I escaped through evolution. To make a long story short, Sam, I think I escaped because I met Herman and Albert, and we began to see that. And when I decided to see that we were on a hill, they called the CCR the hill because it was the highest part in the penitentiary. But I saw us as being on the hill in solitary at the bottom of the heap, because we could not be heard. And that's what I named my book, The Bottom of the Heap, because we had, and because I think the significance and what I had in mind is that we had to, even though we were on a hill, we were considered at the bottom of Angola, and we had to scream the loudest to be heard. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we did. We began to speak how the system was. I could have continued to try to escape, and if I would have been in position, I probably would have walked away or tried to escape. Mm-hmm. But they had me where I could, and so I had to learn some other technique. And what made me got off into law was the fact that we were trying to make some changes inside the prison after teaming up with Herman and Albert, who were also in CCR with some other folks at that time. We were trying to make some changes in the prison. And this is how we became ultimately noted as the Angola 3.
Yes. I was going to ask you about the book, so I'm glad you spoke about your book. And I don't know if you want to just, when I was doing my research, I came across one of the wardens at Angola, Mr. Burkane. And I looked him up and I read his little short bio on Wikipedia, and I read some of the things and some of his mindset about the Angola 3, and basically it was his intent to keep you all confined in the solitary confinement as long as he could, to keep you all out of the prison population, so the other prisons wouldn't be rallying behind you all with the type of mindset that you all had, so that you all wouldn't convert them. I guess that's what it was. You mind speaking about, Mr. Ken? Were you incarcerated during Mr. Burrow's tenure at Angola?
Yeah, well, if you check the records, you probably know that he's the reason why I was in CCR. Yes, uh, I was being kept in CCR during that time, along with Herman and Albert, and not being left out of CCR. But yes, Boy Kane, he became the warden at Angola, and he was obsessed with what he considered militancy, people who were militant, and of course he tried to act publicly being reasonable. But he is Boy Kane was a he was he was a demon. He was demon. He was a demon. But to me, he was my inspiration because he was the type of person that I know you have to deal with. You have to, if you, when I say deal with, you have to use, you couldn't use the same type of force in which he had. I got off into law, and I figured this that I could hit him where it hurt, and we filed all kind of lawsuits against him, in which we won. I mean, he didn't want us to go on the yard during the time in which we were allowed to go on the yard. He was trying to take that away from us. He didn't want us to have, certain other appendages that other prisoners may have had. He did his best to try to disparage his whole system. His system to make sure that we were contained. And so security was made and was an ideal thing with regards to us. And Bud Kane was like that, but he was also a hypocrite. But uh, the point is this: that when I say he was a hypocrite, because when John Conyers, in other years, later years, when came back and went back to Angola with John Conyers and a bunch of other people, he was a totally different individual. I mean, he was the one that drove us around the prison. But that's another.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I kind of got the sense that when I just saw his face, I just said, "Oh wow, the devil." So, Mr. King, who now we again, based on my research, you spent 29 years in solitary confinement. You were released in 2001, and since then, you tell me who Mr. King is today. Like, what type of life are you living after your incarceration, and where are you now?
Well, I'm in Marrero, New Orleans. You could say it, Louisiana. Um, but it's where I reside at. But my heart is elsewhere. My heart is in the struggle. you know,
It's still in
uh,
the struggle.
so
Hmm.
all this continued, and I have some things going on, even in New Orleans. Even though I live in Jefferson Parish, I have some property in New Orleans. I want to convert it to a center where the quest for democracy continues. In memory, it would be a center in memory of the Angola Three,
Hmm.
and the labor quest. It's where the quest for democracy continues because uh, I understand the process of democracy these days. At one time, I did not understand what democracy was. I understand now that democracy is not colorblind. I mean, democracy is not racist. Democracy is colorblind. If anyone tell you that they are democratic and that they have racial tendencies and tone in any democracy that in a system that progresses itself democracy, it is not democratic. And so the focus is to try to make sure people understand the difference that democracy is not a conclusion, it's a process. Malcolm felt it, years in Mecca. He felt the when he was with folks, he didn't get it in the Nation of Islam. Martin Luther King saw it. He wasn't really talking about heaven. Again, he wasn't talking about heaven when he was saying little black boys and white girls walking hand, and he was talking about democracy. So I'm a, like J.E. Rogers said, uh, sex knows no color line, race should know no color line. And so these are the things that I am. This is where I am today. I see myself evolving into, what democracy is all, what true democracy is all about. It means people power, it is not Republican Party. It is not a racist party. It is not sexist party. It is democracy. It is total people power, and that's where my focus is at these days. To try to the people who really embraces the concept and the idea of democracy. I don't think they really studied and understand what true democracy is all about. And again, I can't stop re-emphasizing that democracy itself is colorblind. If anybody tell you that they live in a democracy and their racism and that is perpetuating, that is going on, then it's not a democracy, it's a hypocrisy.
Hmm. Yes. So I was going to ask you about the your business that you're running with the candy. Your freelings.
Yeah, some things happen with that to prevent that. Matter of fact, I'm sending some candy out tomorrow, just mostly as gift to people and to get back into it. But I haven't made candy to sell King's Freelings on. I initially begun selling it through PayPal, and then my some things happened. Happened some personal problem. I don't know if you heard about it, but some personal things happened that got in the way, and my email got hijacked, and some other things
Oh,
got in the way.
okay.
Trying
No.
to get,
Okay.
yeah, I'm still trying to get straight now. But the fact is this: to answer your question, I still make candy. Actually, I think Santa Cruz has a commissioner asked me to, or would I make some candy for them coming up in January or February, and I think I pre-submitted to that. And plus, I took it upon myself to make some for people who usually uh, get candy, who for family and what's not. I just made a
Mm-hmm.
whole bunch of and to send more out tomorrow.
I want to try your freelings. Is that how you
Yeah,
pronounce your freelings?
yeah, freelance. Well, if you're not well, if you I might could eat some out this week. I'm sending some out tomorrow. I might just squeeze it in tomorrow as well. You send me an address. If you follow me address, I get up early. I got some packages to be mailed out. And I could package more for you. I just this is I could just give me a PO box or a place to send it out
Okay.
now. I,
I wish you could get it back to where you could make it like a business, like you generating some kind of,
I I
business
intend
for
to do
yourself. I wish
that.
you get it back to that level. I would really love to support you.
Yeah, I thank you very much. I intend to do that because in this place, in this center that I'm speaking of, and it's two lots, and it's in New Orleans, in Algiers. I don't know you're familiar with Algiers. It's
Yeah.
right off of right off of Newton Street. But this place here is two lots. It's on Newton and LaBeouf Street. It covers LaBeouf Street and then Newton Street, and that's the lot that I plan to. And I intend to go up. I intend to have a restaurant in there. I intend to have a library. I want it to go up. Uh, um, so I really want it, and I may not be around. Goodness gracious, I don't know why I'm around now, but it's just an idea, and there are some people who have adopted the idea along with me and know what I want to do, and I have plans. I have made plans for it to continue,
Mm-hmm.
even after I'm gone, and so this is what I want. This is what I want to do, and then again there will be a restaurant that will highlight freelings,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and other, other things, and all the artifacts that the Panthers, there are Panther, what they call cubs. I don't like calling them cubs, but the children of Panthers, they make watches, they make rings, they make shawls, they make jackets, they make, I mean, all kinds of stuff. All of this can go into a market, to the it can become that's
Yeah.
the idea that I want to do, and then I really would like to create some jobs, centered around guys getting out of prison. I mean, we focus on the attention a lot of time of people getting out, and we need to continue to focus on that. and make it for from now on. But when needed, but we need once people get out, what we gonna do with them? We got
Right.
to give them a place to stay. We have to help them, and so this place here will kind of, it won't eliminate that, but it stunts the flow of,
Right.
you know, inequity that goes in that direction.
Yeah. Well, I wish you the best with that. But
Hmm.
and even if you're not here to see it, make its way, throughout, see it through, that's still a part of your legacy, right? And I mean, I'm looking
Yes.
forward to it. I really am. But if you need any help with anything with it, you can just reach out to me, and if I can help you with it, I will.
Cool. All
I
right. Cool.
will. I
Thank you.
will. And hold me to that. That's the truth. Because I feel like you and Mr. Woodfox and Mr. Wallace, for me, you all are legends to me. I didn't, again, know who you all were. But I feel, of course, that you all were just injustice, like, just, it's just terrible. But you came out and you made the best, I think, of your life, even after they tried to hold you down and keep you there. If it was up to them, you probably be still be in there. But thank God, you made it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. So I think about it. And I wonder how in the excuse expression how in the hell that happened. I mean, I think I've been to 42 different countries, 5 continents, and I didn't know how in the world that happened. I think about that, and I go through the years. I see, whoa. And good thing I didn't think about it when it was happening, because I probably wouldn't have did it.
Hmm.
But anyway, I am at this point in time. I have evolved into whatever it was. I mean, I didn't. Yeah, I haven't. I'm not a finished product. And being brought to being recognized, as Angola 3, it did not make me a finished product. I have to continue uh, on and on. This is process that is ongoing. So that's where I am.
Okay.
So yeah, and that's most likely where I'll be.
Okay. Now, we do you want to tell the people where they can find your book again? Everyone, the name of the book is From the Bottom of the Heap, written by Mr. Robert Hillary King.
Uh, no, the book is not in. They did two printing of it, and the movie company. I can't think of them. I got the information in front of me. They bought the movie rights, and they still have the movie rights. And this is the third or the fourth year. So anyway, when they bought the movie rights, was the rights to the Albert's book, as you know, and I'm about to go receive an award, a posthumous award for him anyway, on his book. But that Albert's, there's a movie coming out, you know.
Oh no, I didn't know
Uh,
that.
yeah, and we signed a contract some couple of years or 3 years before Albert passed, and this contract still in existence. In other words, this would be the third, I think, the fourth year that uh, I know three for sure. I've signed a contract for a movie that is allegedly coming up, and it will be uh, it's titled the name of Albert book. Um,
Um,
uh, yeah,
Solitary,
solitaire.
solitary. Yes, I
Yeah.
have a copy of Mr. Albert's book. I
Well,
interviewed his brother a couple weeks ago, and so I purchased the book. And I was going to purchase yours, but you're saying I can't. It's not available in print right now.
well, it's
I
not.
think it's on Amazon. I think it's on Amazon.
Uh, could be on Amazon, but if you can't get it there, I mean, look. It was printed twice. They did the initial hardback. Um, it was a hardback deal,
Mm-hmm.
and then immediately after that, they decided less than a year later to do the paperback version. So the hardback been sold out, but there are some few copies laying around,
Okay.
and the paperback are out of not in other words, they are not being printed anymore by the publishing company who had the
Okay.
book,
Okay.
but the film, the movie folks, they have this whatever right, that is in the book that the publishing company might have had with regard to getting the book published. They have that same right now for movies, so they
Okay.
bought the rights.
Okay. I understand. I understand now. I just wanted to plug your book for you, and I really appreciate you coming on my show. And I'm gonna quote you if you don't mind. I may be free of Angola, but Angola will never be free of me. How about that?
Yeah, I don't know what made me say that, but I did say that. But I did say that, and I think I must have meant it,
Yeah,
and it
you
probably
did.
won't.
You did because
Yeah,
that's what you're known for. So that's kind of like I think that's my subconsciously that's what it means. I think when you said that. Now you mentioned that when you went back at some point, have you ever gone back since you left?
yeah. What happened was it's a long story, cause it's a long
Though
story.
you have to tell me the story,
I
but you did end up
but
going
I
back
can't
there.
look. When I say it's a long story, I'm gonna be brief. I can. I'm way over the time allotted that we see.
It's okay.
But
It's
but
okay.
look, when I, when I say it's a long story, what happened was if you if you've read my book, I was my name before I became Robert H. King. My
Mm-hmm.
name was Robert Wilkerson.
Okay.
I always and then not only was I always thought that my name was Robert King Wilkerson, you know. Uh, but I found out once I was released from prison, I found out my true name, you know, that my father was a Wilkerson. My mother was a King.
Oh, okay.
Grandmother and all of it was King, and my daddy was a soldier, during World War II. Anyway, he hooked up with my mom, and I was the second child of my mama's. So I was named all those years. My grandmother was the one who raised me, not my mom. All those years, I thought my name was Robert Wilkerson. In other words, I named after my uncle. His name was Robert King. You know,
Mhm.
I thought my name was Robert Wilkerson and taking my dad's last name. So I always put the King in there, Robert King, and everybody called me King anyway. And
Okay.
everybody thought that we were brothers, me and my uncle, that we were brothers anyway. And so, make a long story short, what happened was that I decided to, when I got out, I went down to I had got my Social Security number way back when I was 15 years old. And you can't get but one of those.
Right.
And so I went back to get my ID, and it was then, make a long story short again, it was then that I found out with this Social Security number, say my true name, and they showed me, the lady came back and told me, said, you need to take a break on this. Say, go have some lunch and come back. I got some information for you. But it was okay with me, it was all right because I had a brand new identity. I had a brand new name. Robert Hillary King had never been convicted. It was almost as if I was given brand new birth.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, it was. I mean,
Interesting.
when you think about it, under that, and I can go further with it. And when I think about all of the stuff that took place, I say, whoa,
Right.
how could and the places that I've been that I've never, like I said, dreamed of. I mean, Africa, Asia, Norway,
Yeah.
the
Wow.
all of. I mean, these are, and yeah. It's kind of hard to envision, and I wonder how in the hell it happened. Excuse the
Yeah.
expression.
And it was supposed to
And,
happen like that because look at all the years you served. You're deserving of it. You're deserving of that.
yeah, and I guess it was done for a reason, and I think that's where my evolution come into the play, because I think all of these experiences and whatever you want to call them, I think there are experiences that I needed. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna get off the line.
Okay.
You know, I I when I got out of prison, I saw myself as being struggling to get to a point, you know, and I got to that point, where I opened that gate. I saw that light, and I went through that gate, and I was released from prison. And then I began to realize, once I was released from prison, that I have to redefine and re-envision that, seeking for that tunnel and seeking for that light. Because I realized this, that while I was in prison, I sought for a door and a light and an opening and went through it. And I walked a little piece, and there was another door, you know, a darkened door that was a light that was far away. And then beyond that door was another door. So in other words, I see myself as being not devolving doors, but evolving doors of light into, areas that I had no knowledge of, that I think that I need to go in. And I think my experience has given me what the wherewithal and what I need, and equipped me with what I need to weather, what I need to weather. And I think this is how I envision myself. I still have tunnels that I'm going through, and no matter how much succession or how high I go, there are more height that you can go to. And there's another door with a light. There's another tunnel with a light at the end of the tunnel. And after that one, there was another and another. And it's constantly evolving. And that's the way I see life.
Right.
Haven't said that
Thank you so much. You said a lot.
You're welcome.
You said a lot. You spoke to me in that one. Thank you so much. In conclusion, the story of the Angola Three is a powerful testament to the challenges and injustices within the U.S. criminal justice system. The experiences of Herman Wallace, Albert Woodfox, and Robert Hillary King shed light on the harsh realities of solitary confinement and the struggle for justice in a system marred by systemic issues. Their enduring commitment to activism, even in the face of decades of isolation and adversity, has sparked important conversations about the need for reform. The Angola Three's journey serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of prolonged incarceration and the importance of addressing issues such as racial inequality, harsh prison conditions, and the use of solitary confinement. As we reflect on their stories, it is crucial to consider the broader implications of our society. The Angola's Three fight for justice transcends their individual cases, calling on us to reevaluate the principles that guide our criminal justice system and to advocate for a more humane and equitable approach to punishment and rehabilitation. Their resilience invites us to confront the uncomfortable truths within our legal system and work toward a future where justice is truly blind and incarceration is just, fair, and rehabilitative. The Angola Three are both intellectuals and activists. These men were more than just prisoners. They were courageous, brilliant prison activists and intellectuals, but more than anything, they had a true brotherhood. I encourage you to research their stories because there is still so much more to be told. You can also purchase copies of their books on Amazon. Robert King's autobiography, From the Bottom of the Heap, Jackie Sumel and Herman Wallace's project, The House That Herman Built, and Albert Woodfox's memoir, Solitary. In closing, I leave you today with a poem written by Albert Woodfox. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to sharing more stories with you in Season 2 of the Stirring the Gumbo Pot podcast. Echoes. Echoes of wisdom I often hear, a mother's strength softly in my ears. Echoes of womanhood shining so bright, echoes of a mother within darkest night. Echoes of wisdom on my mother's lips, too young to understand it was in a gentle kiss. Echoes of love and echoes of fear, arrogance of manhood wouldn't let me hear. Echoes of heartache I still hold close as I mourn the loss of my one true hero. Echoes from a mother's womb, heartbeats held so dear. Life begins with my first tears. Echoes of footsteps taken in the past. Echoes of manhood standing in a looking glass. Echoes of motherhood, gentle and near. Echoes of a lost mother I will always hear. Albert Woodfox, 1995. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stirring the Gumbo Pot podcast. I really appreciate you all listening in and for being a supporter of the show. So in the spirit of Don Cornelius, I wish you all love,